I used to think that feeling lost meant that your life was falling apart. And nobody tells you when it happens, when everything looks like it's actually working. You have a good job, a nice apartment, a relationship that looks happy and stable, and friends who assume you are okay because you seem okay. And then one random Tuesday at 9 p.m., you are standing in your kitchen wondering, whose life am I actually living? Here's the question that I've been sitting with. Why do so many adults, people who by every visible measure doing fine, look like strangers in their own lives? Not in crisis, not falling apart, just quietly disconnected from something they cannot even name. And we don't have good language for this because depressed doesn't fit. You are functioning properly. Ungrateful doesn't fit. You know what you have. Midlife crisis doesn't even fit. Some of you are just 27 or younger. You are just quietly disconnected from a life that looks like it should fit. And I think there's a specific kind of loss that only shows up after you've already done the responsible thing, after you've already built the life that was supposed to work out. Here's what I think is actually happening. From the time that we are children, we are handed a sequence and taught how to build a life the way we build a resume. Study hard, get the degree, find a stable job, build a career, find someone, get married, have children, buy the house. Keep going. Just put your head down and make it work no matter what. And none of those things are bad. Many of them are beautiful, in fact. So we continue to get the next thing and then the next one. Each one supposedly proving something that you are stable, that you are successful, that you are safe. But nobody tells you that a resume isn't a self. I'll say it again. A resume isn't a self. So yes, we inherit the sequence long before we ever examine whether it fits the person that we are becoming. We become so incredibly good at answering the society's questions. What do you do? Are you married? Where do you live? When are you having kids? When are you buying a house? But somewhere in the middle of answering everyone's questions, we quietly stop asking our own questions like, what kind of life actually makes me feel alive? What do I value when nobody is watching? Who am I when I'm not trying to meet someone else's expectations? And the funny part is, those questions don't disappear at all. They wait, sometimes even for years. And eventually they come back because you can complete every item on the list and still not know who is underneath it. Because you built the whole thing to be looked at, not to be lived in. So I don't think you are feeling lost because something is wrong with you. I think you're feeling lost because you finally stopped moving long enough. Is that nobody ever asked what you wanted. Psychologists have a name that gets close to this. A while ago, I came across a psychology concept called identity foreclosure. It's an idea that sometimes we commit to an identity long before we've explored whether it is even ours. We inherit it from family, from culture, from survival, and then we spend so many years performing a life that we never consciously chose. And when I read that, I couldn't stop thinking about my own life. Then I found something else that surprised me even more. Researchers have found a concept called arrival fallacy, which suggests that we are remarkably bad at predicting what will make us happy. We keep believing that the next milestone will finally make us feel like we have arrived. Then we get there and the feeling disappears much faster than we expected, which means maybe the problem was never that you hadn't achieved enough. Maybe achievement was never answering the question that you were actually asking. And I'll tell you when I felt this the hardest in my own life. It wasn't during the worst parts of my marriage. It wasn't even right after I left. It was about over a year later, when the adrenaline of the decision had worn off, when people stopped checking on me because, as far as anyone could tell, I had already done the hard part. I had already left. I remember sitting alone in my place one evening. Everything in it was mine. I had chosen where I lived. I had chosen the furniture. I had chosen the work that I was doing. And I had this strange thought. I don't actually know who picked any of this because living wasn't the same thing as knowing what I wanted instead. Living just meant that I had stopped doing the thing that was clearly wrong. But nobody wants you to think that after clearly wrong is just quiet and directed. You are free, but you don't know what to do with your own hands. And the strange thing is this, I had felt this once before. When I left aviation after a 7-year career as a flight attendant, and for those 7 years, I knew exactly who I was every time I put on that uniform. It told me where I belonged before I even spoke a word. But when it eventually came off, I wasn't sure who I was underneath it. Some people congratulated me. They thought that I was leaving a job. But I wasn't. I was actually losing an identity. While they treated it like a finish line, saying things like, look, she made the leap from employment, nobody really asked what I was working toward, including myself. I think that's the part that nobody prepares you for. We prepare people to leave. We don't prepare people to arrive somewhere with no instructions. And I've now started thinking that there are 3 seasons of adulthood: survival, stability, and the rebuilding. And this channel is about the third one. So if you are sitting in a life that looks fine and feels static, I don't think you are ungrateful. I don't think you are broken. I don't even think that you are lost, actually. I think that you are finally quiet enough to hear that you never picked most of these on purpose. And that's not a crisis. That's information. The feeling lost isn't the problem. It's the first honest thing that you have felt in years. And I don't think the goal is to get back to just being fine. Fine is what got you here. I think the goal is to actually build something on purpose for the first time. Even if it's smaller, even if it's slower, even if it doesn't look as impressive on paper as the life that you had already proved you could build. That's not starting over. That's starting honest. That's why I started this channel. Not because I have life figured out. I actually don't. I started it because I think millions of adults are quietly asking the same question. How do I build a life that actually feels like mine? That's a question that I want to spend the next few years exploring through psychology, through stories, through research, through rebuilding, through my own story and my lived experience. If these are the kinds of questions that you've been carrying too, I think that you will feel right at home here. So if you'd like to explore them with me, I would love to have you here. Maybe you are not behind. Maybe you are not broken. Maybe you are finally paying enough attention. I'll see you in the next one.